In this video, I'm going to walk you through how we helped Rosemary go from unpredictable spikes and carb fear to stable blood sugar even while eating pizza and eating out. And stick around to the end because I'll share the number one mindset shift that the mom of Rosemary, Allie, made that allowed her to let go of the guilt and the fear so that she could finally find peace and confidence as a parent of a child with type 1 diabetes. I'm Isaac Pullman. I'm a registered dietitian and a fellow person with type 1 diabetes. And if you want to learn our team's approach that has allowed over 500 clients balance their blood sugar, restore their health for good, without cutting out carbs, you can grab my free training below in the description. When I first started working with Allie and her 6-year-old daughter, Rosemary, every blood sugar spike felt like a failure. They were exhausted, they were overwhelmed, and just terrified of every rise, thinking that it meant long-term damage. And like many parents we work with, Allie blamed herself for that. And Allie and her husband tried working with nutritionists at the hospital, their endocrinologist, programs to cure type 1 diabetes, carnivore, low carb, you name it. And then supplements like beef pancreas and beef liver, selenium, magnesium, and even books to help to support her nervous system, which didn't really work in the way that they expected to help with her blood sugar. And as a result, Allie was feeling really hopeless and unsure of how to care for Rosemary and skeptical that the next thing would work. And she just wanted Rosemary to feel good, have balanced blood sugar, and reduce the likelihood of future complications. And so here's what we did to help both Allie and Rosemary within the Pullman method. Number one, we had them paired with a practitioner that also had type 1 diabetes because what the parents are trying to do is relate to their kids, and they're really having a hard time doing that. And so when they can relate to a practitioner and talk with them about their personal experience, but also professionally, what they would do, it really helps them to feel more calm, feel more clear about the path moving forward to help their kid. And one of the biggest things that we talked about with Allie is really more of a mindset shift and how she approached managing Rosemary's blood sugar. And that was seeing the benefits to a rise in blood sugar, because many times, especially in this day and age where we have CGMs and hacks for blood sugar spikes, right? We have gotten into this place where any sort of rise in blood sugar is bad and it's going to cause long-term damage. But it's actually quite normal and quite healthy for your blood sugar to rise after the meal. I'm not talking about spiking to the 200s, 300s, or 400s. What I'm talking about is a small rise and a small fall, because that happens with anybody, including those that don't have any metabolic issues or blood sugar issues. They still have a rise in blood sugar after eating. And so the mindset shift that we really used was this. If I started doing push-ups right now, air squats, sit-ups, my heart rate would go up and so would my blood pressure. If you looked at that in a vacuum, we would be like, wow, Isaac, you have high blood pressure. You might be at risk for cardiovascular disease. You might need to go on a blood pressure medication, all of those things. Not realizing this is in the context of exercise where both of those values, heart rate and blood pressure, need to go up in order to facilitate blood flow to different places of my body, the working muscles, but also my brain so I don't pass out, right? So those increases in those measurements are actually beneficial for my body to cope with the exercise that I'm doing. So if we look at the context of blood sugar, using that as an example, what could possibly be the benefit of rising blood sugar after a meal? And I'm not talking about rising blood sugar where it's spiking into the 200s, 300s, 400s. That's an entirely different conversation. What I'm referring to is a rise in blood sugar less than or equal to 140. When the body has that type of a rise, the liver actually soaks up that extra glucose in your bloodstream, almost like a sponge would to water. And when it's soaking up that extra glucose, what it's also doing is getting an energy resource for later use so it can prevent low blood sugar. But also, even more importantly, it helps to activate the very hormones that our body needs, specifically thyroid hormone, which impacts the health of every single cell in your body. So if you think about it, that's mental functions, that's less anxiety, feeling more calm, feeling less stressed. That's physical functions, energy, digestion, sleep. That's lab values, A1C, cholesterol, blood sugar. It's all of those different things. And so if we say, hey, my blood sugar is spiking, let's just cut out carbs, we're not looking at the other pieces that carbs actually bring to the table, which is hormone activation. And so especially for a growing child like Rosemary, that's especially important. And so just with that flip, looking at what's beneficial from a blood sugar rise instead of just saying, hey, any sort of rise is going to cause long-term damage to my child. That really helped loosen up the reins a little bit, feel less stressed, and be willing to incorporate carbs in a way that was really nourishing for Rosemary's body. The second thing that we did was really focused on building Allie's stress response. And we find for many parents, they want to control as much as possible when they have kids with type 1 diabetes. They're great mothers, they're great fathers, and they just want to do their best for their kid, especially for something they don't quite understand themselves since they don't have it and haven't had the support from maybe their doctors in a way that they needed for their kid. And so when we are less fearful, naturally our kids reflect that back to us as well. When we really hold on tight and trying to control everything as good mothers, as good fathers do, it signals to our kids that this is life or death. And don't get me wrong, like blood sugar is definitely a serious thing. But the more that we can come at it from the perspective of, okay, what's going well, learning compassionately without judging when you have a spike or a crash, being open to new foods and knowing how to dose for them so they don't feel left out from other kids, helping them focus on things that they actually enjoy while supporting the blood sugar, the positives. And this can be a helpful and a great thing when you're young. And the good thing is, like, kids can bounce back quickly when they have the tools available to them that really supports their body. And so that's what we did with Rosemary, finding the foods that she naturally gravitated towards, but also building blood sugar supporting foods around that. So it was really supporting her body as a whole. And then number 3, we identified Rosemary's mineral imbalances and her deficiencies with the Pullman Lab bundle, one of those being what's called an HTMA test. Now, like many clients with type 1, she was deficient in sodium and potassium and really burning through a lot of magnesium. And on this test right here, you can see her magnesium level is quite high. That doesn't mean that Rosemary has a lot. It just means that her body was using up a lot of it, burning through it. Similar if you were driving your car 150 miles an hour, you would burn up more gas that way versus if you were driving at 50 miles an hour. And then Rosemary was also low in sodium, and many times this doesn't occur because you're not eating enough. One of the main reasons is that your adrenal glands that respond to stress are ultimately exhausted. And when they are exhausted, your body can no longer hold on to as much sodium as it needs. And so we tend to see this in clients with more severe high and low blood sugars because your adrenals are constantly having to kick in to keep your blood sugar in a steadier range. And we also know that Rosemary went through something called DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis, which causes a big disturbance in these electrolytes. And many times when you're in the hospital, you require an IV of sodium, of potassium, of possibly magnesium to get those electrolytes back up. And so with the combination of adjusting some things in Rosemary's lifestyle, as well as consuming the foods and a little bit of supplementation to help with some of those electrolytes, this really supported Rosemary's blood sugar stability. And so in summary, in just 3 months, Rosemary experienced more stable blood sugar while enjoying carbs, pizza, and eating out without worry, has a more balanced mood that improved alongside of her blood sugar stability, has better appetite cues, feeling hungry at the right times, and is enjoying a wider variety of meals instead of just relying on light snacks all day that didn't really allow her to feel good. And then Allie, the mom, went from feeling overwhelmed and full of fear and guilt to feeling encouraged and safe and more relaxed in her role as a mother of someone with type 1 diabetes. Now, if you would like results like Rosemary, go down below and book a call to speak with our team, and we'll see if it's a good fit both ways. And if you like this video, you should check out our other video where our client Hillary went from struggling with type 1 for 15 years to insulin sensitive in just 7 days, and that was while eating more fruit and potatoes.